And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review. This is Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth from Requiem. This is the, I think, second person from Requiem to come to my patron server. And really, Yawgmoth is a whale. At least that's how he classifies himself as, and he's been playing for about 9 months. He wants to know about both arenas, how he's doing, territory battles, wars, how to use Ray, and really his biggest thing was he wanted to be the first Ray review after having achieved Ray and kind of where to go with the team, and so that's pretty cool. So the first thing we're going to go off of is kind of the potential team that you're going to build for Arena, because I know that this Arena squad is doing very well for you, and I have a quick tweak for this particular team, and then I'm going to give you kind of a future team that you can use for that. So the current team that you have now, you could pull Cassian for Thrawn. See, Thrawn thrives in Arena, and he can replace about anyone on any team, and you have him at gear 12, and you have his ebb and flow unique, and so he's going to work really, really well as just a standalone unit to totally and completely disrupt your opponents, both on offense and on defense. And so he could definitely replace Cassian. Yes, Cassian is a debuff master. He applies a lot of expose under Jyn Erso, and he does a decent amount of damage, but Grand Admiral Thrawn and his fracture capability, in my opinion, with his protection regeneration, especially with Biggs, or with Trit and Baze there, really makes a difference in the Arena. So that would be the quick tweak I would do right now. I would try him out by throwing him in under Cassian's slot and seeing how you do in that particular setup. But as far as the future setup for Arena, I've got a really fun team that I think you're going to enjoy. So I know you've seen my recent video on Rey, Jedi training, and R2-D2 BB-8 and a couple of tanks in the background. And I know that you are excited about this and want to go this route because you have already Zeta'd Roll with the Punches, and you've already Zeta'd Insight. Now, I would definitely recommend, if you're going to run this after you finish gearing her, to do her Inspirational Presence, her leadership. You definitely want that leadership Zeta if you're going to run her as the lead. But I would have a Rey as the leader, BB-8 and R2-D2 by her sides, and then Old Ben as the tank in the background. He works very well. This provides you 2 mind tricks, which gives you ability block and multiple ones. And an eventual Zeta for him would be Devoted Protector, which means when he is fractured, when he's taunting, it goes ahead and applies another taunt afterwards, so he can actually taunt even through fracture, provided his Devoted Protector is Zeta'd. So pretty good, because it helps a little bit to nullify a fracture capability from another team. And the truth is, you actually want Old Ben to die. You want him to take all of the damage because the rest of the team stays damage free, and when he dies, he boosts everybody up really, really good, so with a bunch of boosts. So really pretty cool. That could swing the tide of the battle on defense by having him die on defense. So pretty cool. And since you don't have General Kenobi unlocked to have that double tank run, I would suggest Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's gear 12. He has fracture himself, so he effectively takes out their tank or one of their tanks. He's got ability block on his basic. He can regenerate protection on the one tank you do have, which is Old Ben, which you can put a lot of protection on, so that way you can make Old Ben more durable, which is super frustrating for the opponent. So Grand Admiral Thrawn in the background with Old Ben is a viable substitution. Now, you're doing really well in ships, and I don't want to tell you what to do in ships if you're doing really well. I mean, you're in the top 20, and I think you climb into the top 10 pretty easily during payout time. But something I see in here that just doesn't make any sense to me particularly is the Millennium Falcon. And I know it's a really cool ship, and I know it has potential, and I know it's 5 stars, and you're gearing it up, and you're gearing the characters up and whatnot, and so you're all excited about it. But truth be told, it's too slow of a ship for Arena. And its damage is not, the output is not as good as you'd like, especially on defense, because it will be targeted, which will lose all of its extra buffs, which means it's not going to be hitting like you're going to be having it potentially on offense. So if it was me, and you're obviously asking for my review, I would take the Falcon out and I would have the TIE Advanced like you have, the TIE Reaper like you have, I would have Biggs like you have, and then I would have First Order TIE Pilot like you have, and then I would have the Umbaran in that slot where you have the Falcon. And so the reason for that is the Umbaran is going to be very, very durable, and a lot of people just ignore it basically because there's damage dealers they have to worry about. What's really cool about that is then in your lineup you can have Scimitar first in, which will then basically false taunt onto the Umbaran, which really creates durability for you as far as getting to your ultimate, and your ultimate is how you're going to win. And then after Scimitar in your backup, you'd have Slave 1, and then lastly you could bring in the Imperial TIE Fighter as the very last thing. And the reason is, once they've killed a lot and you've got Imperial TIE Fighter coming in, he's super dodgy and they're trying to hit him, and it just feeds the last little bit of turn meter you need for the ultimate to go off. So really, I would have Scimitar, Slave 1, and Imperial TIE Fighter in your back 3, and then in the front 5, I would have your TIE Advanced, TIE Reaper, First Order TIE Pilot, Biggs, and then instead of the Falcon, do the Umbaran. That's my 2 cents on that. As far as light side territory battles, I suggest the Phoenix Squad, which you have already pretty good, and so continue to kind of passively work on the Phoenix Squad. When you can continue to get a little bit of gear, if it's glowing green, go ahead and pop some gear onto these guys. Continue to develop them so you can start to get 6 out of 6 on all of the waves. Also with Rebels, I see you've got a lot of Rogue One. You know, you've got your Baze, your Chirrut, Jyn Erso, Cassian, K2SO, so you've got the Rogue One, so that looks good. No development really needed here. Obviously, with Resistance, you look really, really good. I think this is more than sufficient, but that's another team that I would work on finishing up, and I know you are. You're actually focused on Jedi Training Rey as we speak. The only light side character I see for light side territory battles that you really need to focus on is Captain Han Solo. You have him 5-star, I think gear 7. And again, I've mentioned this on Canth's roster review that's coming out basically about the same time as yours, is this character applies days on basic. It's guaranteed on Empire, which is what you're going against in the territory battles. He's really the MVP, plus he's required at 5-star for one of the battles and 7-star for another battle. So he definitely needs to be in your favorites, and this should be really the one that you hyper focus on. As far as your light side territory battle teams, though, all in all, you look like you have a really good spread, decent teams. I know sometimes they get crippled by donating certain characters to your platoons, and that stinks. And so you want to have at least 1 or 2 substitutions, meaning that you want to have at least 6 Resistance, 6 Rogue One Rebels, 6 Phoenix, because you may have to donate one of your characters for platooning. So I would focus on 6 on every team instead of just the standardized 5, and then get Captain Han Solo up. Let's go to Dark Side now. So this is the first and foremost team that I would put into your favorites and I would work on for dark side territory battles. I believe personally it's the second best dark side team you can do. I think the Night Sisters are the best, but 3 of them are behind a paywall right now, which makes it impossible to use them throughout the entire territory battles. But the Imperial Troopers are not, and you've got the hardest 2 done. Death Trooper and Shore Trooper are absolutely clutch and are extremely difficult to farm. So the fact you have both of them knocked out is phenomenal. Colonel Stark, I would continue to star up. You can get those in the shipments, not the pay for shipments, actually the free to play shipments, the guild store. And so I would continue to gear him up and star him up. Colonel Stark is awesome. General Veers also is the lead potential, especially when you're going strictly Imperial Troopers, or on an Empire node. You can run your Thrawn with General Veers on the side. It only requires 1 Zeta, and that's on General Veers, and you already have most of your characters leveled up. But Snow Trooper is an absolute killer MVP, so you definitely want to make sure that Snow Trooper is focused on. So I would star up and gear up General Veers, Snow Trooper, and Colonel Stark. Those would be my 3 top priorities on this team. Remember, like any team, you should probably have 6 of the Imperial Troopers that you focus on, and the reason for that is if you have to platoon 1 of them, you can have the other 5 to actually do the battle. So those would be the team that I see the most opportunity with. Also, as far as this goes, you do have a decent Sith team. This would be a team you could use for Territory Battles Dark Side. Because of where you're at with gearing and things like that, I would not use Darth Nihilus as a lead, even though he brings durability. I would actually run Emperor Palpatine or Darth Maul as your lead, and I would preferably run Emperor Palpatine as your lead. So Emperor Palpatine, you know, Darth Maul. You've got a very durable Darth Vader. He is a bit slow, but you also have Count Dooku with his countering capability and, you know, stunning and stuff like that. He's got a pretty good kit. So you've got a decent amount of Sith. You got 6 Sith. They need a little bit of gear and some love, but all in all, they would work out for you not too bad. As far as Scoundrels, this is going to be a tough one. Their Scoundrels are required on a couple of nodes for Darkside Territory Battles, and half of these, I mean, all your good, truly your first 4 good Scoundrels are all light side Scoundrels, so they're all going to be kicked out on the Darkside Territory Battle. So your Boba Fett's going to be your lead, and then you're going to have to bring in the likes of Newt Gunray, IG-88, Greedo, and Cad Bane, and that's a fine team together, but you're going to definitely have to continue to passively gear these guys over time. Now, I'm giving you a lot of teams, and most of them need some work. So these are teams that you just kind of passively develop. If you see one of the characters and they have a green spot glowing that you've gotten some gear over the last few weeks, then pop that gear in them and get them slowly up. I wouldn't hard focus on the Scoundrels specifically. As far as Empire goes, you got, you know, a really great swath of Empire characters, and remember, most of these Empire characters that I've suggested, like Stark, Snowtrooper, and Veers, are all characters that are part of the Imperial Trooper faction, and so you're going to want to develop them, but the rest look pretty good. You are using Grand Moff Tarkin in ships, and so because of that, I would continue to passively gear up Grand Moff Tarkin because of him being the pilot for that ship. All right, Yawgmoth, this is going to be an evolution for you. I know it's going to be a struggle to swap from something that you know and trust in Arena to something that you're unfamiliar with a Rey lead, BB-8 R2-D2, Old Ben, and Thrawn. But once you get those characters developed, it will be worth it all day, every day. Again, in ships, continue to develop your pilots, and I would swap out basically Umbaran for the Falcon. And then for light side territory battles, focus on Captain Han Solo for the most part, and on dark side, focus on Imperial troopers. As far as territory wars go, it's really using whatever you have available, and factions make a synergy, and on defense, faction synergy is really important. And so having a Sith team on defense with a Darth Maul lead that's Zeta, that's a great team composition. Having, you know, a particular node where you have a Thrawn lead with, you know, Shore Trooper and Death Trooper, those are good defensive squads. Having a Rey team with Rey, R2-D2, BB-8, and a couple of tanks, those are good defensive teams. But you have to use what you have, and so really it's more important to focus on arenas, territory battles, and when you develop those teams for arena and territory battles, you'll have naturally developed the teams you're going to end up eventually using in territory wars. If anybody has any questions or comments for Yawgmoth, leave them in the comments down below. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.